as there's a lot going on in the transfer portal as it hit high gear yesterday for Tennessee as far as the outflow. The inflow is probably going to take a little bit longer, but the Down and Dirty at 30 brought to you by Nutrition World. I stopped by Nutrition World just the other day and picked up my supplements, but you can order them online as well. Go to nutritionw.com. That's nutritionw.com. And don't put something into your body that is not perfect for your needs. Don't put something in your body that's not high quality, because that is what can happen at those acronym supplement stores. So go to nutritionw.com, nutritionw.com, and they will take care of you. All right, Caleb. So they say you win with the Jimmies and Joes. A couple of Jimmies are out the dough. And that would be Jimmy. That would be Jimmy Holiday and Jimmy Callaway.
All right.
They enter the transfer portal. And for those that don't know, here the way the rules work. You enter the transfer portal. You can evaluate other schools. However, you can come back to your original school, but the original school doesn't have to hold the scholarship. So you're kind of gambling a little bit that somebody else, which is so weird to me to put on an 18, 19, 20-year-old guy. But anyway, so Jimmy Callaway, Jimmy Holiday have entered the transfer portal. A couple of running backs too. But Caleb, first, let me get your thoughts on the impact of both guys. And really, I think the signal that is being sent by the program and their announcements. You go.
So they were actually a little bit different, even though they both play wide receiver. I think Jimmy Holiday's makes a little more sense. I think the emergence of Squirrel White just made it, and then D. Williams taking over punt returning too. I think that just made it effectively. There was no room for Jimmy Holiday. He's a junior. I think he's got 2 years of eligibility left. And with Squirrel White emerging, the type of role Jimmy Holiday would play, he's just never going to play at Tennessee now. Jimmy Callaway threw me off a little bit because even though he's been there 2 years, Cedric Tillman is going to be gone after this year. He's gone. Jalen Hyatt's probably going to the pros too. So there was definitely probably an opening in the slot for a guy like Jimmy Callaway. Even if Ramel Keaton and Brew McCoy are back on the outside. And so that one I was a little bit more shocked by, but I mean, I guess I kind of understand with them. Again, Squirrel White had emerged so much in the slot too for Tennessee at receiver that Jimmy Callaway probably was just like, there's no there's no room for me to become a starter, so I'm going to look elsewhere. I thought I don't want to judge players too harshly whenever they do anything. Holidays made sense. I think Callaway ducked competition a little bit.
I do too. I completely do. And I think Squirrel White's the most exciting player on this entire team. You want to know why I think so? Because I think for the first time they didn't have Bayless Jones at that slot receiver position for just 1 year. They had him for 1 year. They didn't have time to really prepare him. I thought that Jalen Hyatt, they had really for one off season because he admitted that he came into last season with a poor attitude. I think Squirrel White at that slot receiver gets really scary and gets really interesting with 2 or 3 years to prepare for him. I think there's more things you can do with him. So I was surprised by the latter, as you mentioned, the latter, Jimmy. And I think there is some ducking of competition. I think it sends a statement, Amanda, that this football team is going to be aggressive in the transfer portal. And I think there may have been a quiet message made, just like there was in recruiting with the Stallings kid when they went to Khalifa Keith, that, hey, buddy, we really appreciate you. I just don't know if there's going to be much of a role for you. I think those sorts of conversations happen.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And I think that Tennessee is going to be a strong contender in the transfer portal and one that a lot of players out there are going to want to go for. I mean, if you're an offensive player and you want recognition, this is the offense you want to play in. So I think that Heupel, I'm not saying this is what's happening, but behind the scenes going, hey, maybe you're a better fit elsewhere because you're not going to be up to the standard. And I don't think that's wrong because this is real life, everybody. This is what happens in the real world. So even if these kids are 18 to 22 and they have the option to go elsewhere and to look at other places, I think that schools and coaches and programs should have the option to say, hey, you don't really fit very well here. You're not going to get any playing time. Here's the honest truth, transfer out.
Yes. So they have 4 that have intend to enter the transfer portal. Let me clarify on that. So you have 2 others in Linmeth Whitehead, who I was a little surprised by because I thought that I'd heard good things in the preseason before the preseason injury, Caleb. And then Justin Williams Thomas. What are your take on those 2?
Yeah, I was honestly surprised by both. That was Linmeth Whitehead. I think there's something there, but we were just talking about Khalifa Keith and Will Stallings. Do we wonder if the coaches are so high on Khalifa Keith that they don't think that they're, because that he plays a similar role to Whitehead in terms of that, big physical power back almost. I'm not comparing them, guys. Don't accuse me of this, but the Derrick Henry profile of a back. Not that he's going to be as good as Derrick Henry. I'm saying, but he fits that type of profile, which Linmeth Whitehead did. And maybe they see something in Khalifa Keith. Again, Justin Williams Thomas, that the emergence of Dylan Sampson early may have had an impact on his psyche, but at the same time, Jabari Smalls a junior, Jalen Wright's a sophomore. Maybe he got impatient and wanted to play early and went elsewhere. I mean, which anybody who knows the history of Tennessee football, running back is a position you wait your turn to play at Tennessee. That's always been the rule with Tennessee. And if you wait your turn, you can end up having a great season. Look at Travis Stevens, 2001. And so
I view those guys, Caleb, in 2 very different ways. I'm sorry if I interrupted you. I view those guys in 2 different ways. The Linmeth Whitehead was supposed to be like the power back, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think they go out and they get Khalifa Keith to be that power back. I think that they find a Princeton Fant who sort of filled that role for the time being. But yes, that one really surprises me. He's essentially going against a freshman for the power back role that Princeton Fant was so successful in. If you want to say that fullback type of role, I don't know that's exact position, but they need a power back with 2 guys that are kind of slight at the running back position now. But the one that I think is clearly, Amanda, a situation of I'm going to bounce and not tough it out is Justin Williams Thomas, excuse me. I always want to say JTT, Justin Williams Thomas. I think that is clearly a situation where he doesn't want to play the competition game. And if that's the case, go. Because when you talk from a physical perspective, he's as incredible of a specimen on the team as there is. And I don't think he picked up pass pro from what I was told. And listen, if you don't want to do that, that's a big part of this offense. Maybe you should go find an I formation team if there is one in the nation and just run the football and be a running back because you got to be able to play pass pro in this offense.
Well, I think that's a given. But to be fair, maybe he doesn't want to sit behind a bunch of people, and I don't think that that's necessarily wrong. If we're going to open this transfer portal up and let people do what they want and go wherever they want, then maybe there is a better fit for him somewhere else. Maybe he doesn't fit in this offense, and he realizes that and he wants to go. Now, with Whitehead, I thought he was already in the transfer portal. I thought when he got injured or whatever, that he was gone, that he made that known a long time ago.
I don't believe he's made it known. And by the way, they can't actually enter the portal till the 5th. They've all announced that they intend to. So John pointed that out. So to clarify, so they can enter the portal by the 5th, and they've all announced that they plan to do so. So I hadn't heard, Caleb, of him doing so beforehand. Have you?
No, I haven't either. There were quite a few players during the Pruitt and at the start of the Heupel era that entered the transfer portal and came back. So I'm not. My mind gets a little hazy on which ones did what. I know Karak Arlen was one of those players. I'm not sure who else. So don't quote me on it. And then I am a little it is a little confusing because two other power backs from Tennessee did enter the portal in T. Hodge and D. Beckwith last year. I thought they entered the portal because of Lyneth Whitehead. They didn't think they could beat him out as the power back. So we'll kind of see how this goes. I mean, but you're right. I'm with both of you. It was shocking. Well, I'm with you, Dave. I don't know why he would enter with his only competition being Khalifa Keith this year. Princeton Fant's gone.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and unless the coaches have maybe told him, look, we're all in on Khalifa Keith, but I don't think the coaches would do that. You want two at every position, so you'd love two power backs. So I don't know how this is going. What I will say is that, on a macro scale, we're talking about the portal and, the gamble you take. I got to be honest, guys. I think we're going to see a resurfacing of the old argument Derek Dooley tried to make in 2011 that I thought was an awful proposal he had. But you might see coaches make a case for this now, which is to say that if players can enter the portal at whim, we should be allowed to not have to honor scholarships on a yearly basis if they don't perform to how we want. And you might see some coaches fight for that rule.
They don't. I mean, that's rarely done. They don't have to. A scholarship on the college's side is year to year. So, I mean, you can tell a guy that he's just not good enough and you're not going to honor a scholarship. Now, that is highly frowned upon and that will kill you in recruiting. So it's not done often. But I want to remind everybody, if these guys actually enter the portal on the 5th and they've announced publicly their intentions to do that, so I don't see why they would change their mind between now and then. But you have to consider the fact that this Tennessee football team is one that's going to be aggressive in the portal as well. And maybe they know that, and maybe they've been, as Amanda said, given little hints. Now, once they enter the portal, there might be one or two of these guys that Tennessee tries to talk out of it. But once you enter the portal, as I pointed out before, you do not have to hold their scholarship. Once they enter that portal, you don't have to enter the scholarship as of that moment. So you can let people go even sooner than after a year. So we appreciate you being on board. Please hit the like button. The like button opens things up for more viewers, and we're pushing at 1,500. So hit subscribe. We'd greatly appreciate that. And always share, tell your friends. That is simply awesome. So out of this group, Caleb, if they all leave, this 4, which are the biggest blows? Which one is the one that you say, man, Tennessee really could have used him in 2023? Or could have used him for the next 3 years? You pick.
I'm not sure any of them are the biggest, but because none of them seem like that significant. But for 2023 directly, I'm going to say Lyneth Whitehead, because now the Vols again are back to one power back, and he's a freshman. And if Khalifa Keith gets hurt, they don't have a Princeton Fant to fill that role. So I would say Lyneth Whitehead. Long term, I would probably say Justin Williams-Thomas. And so because we thought he could be an elite back. You're right. You pick up pass protection in 2 years, you could be the feature back for Tennessee. Because I think we all are fans of Dylan Sampson here. I don't think any of us think Dylan Sampson can be the guy to carry the ball like 20 to 25 times a game. And so I think that's a big loss. Jimmy Holiday. I think Jimmy Callaway could have played at Tennessee if he fought for competition, but let's be honest, Tennessee's loaded at receiver. We're forgetting, because of the players who stood out this year, how deep Tennessee goes at that position. And so I think that's fine.
So who all do you think Tennessee leans on in receiver next year? Obviously, Squirrel, Brew. Who else? Who are the main?
Ramel Keaton's coming back.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I've got the top 3, but I'm going deeper than that.
Then if you're going to go a little deeper, like you got Caleb Webb, Cameron Miller, Chaz Nimrod. Those are 3 guys that were all 4-stars, fringe 4-stars last year. They were buried in the depth chart this year just because of how deep Tennessee went. But I think you could see Tennessee rely on all of them. It's a little bit next year. So I think that, I think Cameron Miller will probably be the one. I think that's his name, right? Cameron Miller. I'm pretty sure that was his name. He'll probably be the one to back up Squirrel White in the slot. He's more of a he is a little more of a physical receiver, but I think that although he did move to defensive back, didn't he, at the beginning of this year? So
I think what this speaks to is that they're all the transfer portal is going to be very active for Tennessee, very, very active, and I think people going out and going in are going to be something that we're going to see.